see one of the most extraordinary sights of modern science. This laboratory rat has had a leg from another rat grafted onto it. And normally, the rat would quickly reject its new limb, but this animal is being treated with a remarkable new drug that controls rejection. The drug is called cyclosporin. The stories behind dramatic new scientific and medical advances such as this one are brought to you every month in the pages of Discover, America's Science magazine. Today, limb transplants are possible only in laboratory animals, but already cyclosporin is revolutionizing the transplantation of organs, like the heart, the liver, the kidney, in human beings.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bobby. Happy birthday to you.
It's Bob Griffin's 40th birthday.
The doctor back when I was 20 years old had said that I probably wouldn't make it because they weren't into transplants too much then. But I made it to my 40th. I plan on making it to my 100th.
Bob Griffin's made it to his 40th by driving from his home in Fall River, Massachusetts to Boston 3 nights a week without fail. Midnight, Bob arrives at the Kidney Dialysis Center. This machine has been keeping him alive, cleansing his blood of impurities since his own kidneys were destroyed by disease 2 years ago. Like 60,000 other Americans kept alive by dialysis, Bob's only hope of freedom from the machine is a kidney transplant. He wears a symbol of this hope.
Since I've been on dialysis, I've had this hat. I've worn it every day to dialysis, to surgery. I told the girls I'd get rid of it when I finally got the kidney.
Bob's chances of getting and keeping a new kidney are brighter today because of a chain of events that began with a vacation stroll in Norway a dozen years ago. An employee of a Swiss drug company was looking for dirt. From an undistinguished swamp, he collected a few scoops of mud. Now, it's normal routine for drug company workers to collect dirt on their vacations, but this was to be pay dirt for the drug company. And as it turned out, for Bob Griffin and thousands like him in need of new organs. Bob's search for a new kidney began in his immediate family. The closer the relative, the better the odds of the kidney transplant succeeding. His older sister volunteered, but was ruled out for medical reasons. So was a younger sister. Another volunteer was his half-brother, Colin. But the family had known since he was a child that he has a kidney problem of his own. One of his kidneys is lodged deep in his pelvis.
And so he wasn't even asked. My mother had called him and told him that the rest of the family members were, going to be tested. And on his own, he went and had himself checked out.
Well, I just found out last Thursday that I'd be able to donate after a long time of testing. We went through about 8 months of testing, really.
The way he went after this thing with the enthusiasm he did just makes me love him a lot more. I really do.
I guess it's a tough decision to give up a part of your body, but
how can I repay him? I can never repay him for this. He said $20,000 would probably cover it, but...
I just hope everything will be good.
The only good part about his whole body is going to be my kidney. So.
Colin's kidney may be good when Bob first receives it, but it will be at once attacked by white blood cells that recognize it as foreign. This attack would soon reject the kidney unless Bob is given anti-rejection drugs. The drugs kill the attacking cells, but also kill all the other cells that protect the body from intruders. Intruders that include disease-carrying microbes. So the drugs save the kidney, but can kill the patient by making him vulnerable to disease. This is the ancient town of Basel in Switzerland, straddling the Rhine, the home of several large drug companies. It was here that spoonful of Norwegian mud began its transformation into a drug that would fight rejection in a new way. Drug companies routinely check soil samples to see what microbes they contain. Among the several that grew from the Norwegian mud was a fungus that hadn't been seen before. The next step was to see if the fungus made anything new and useful. This is all normal routine. Most new antibiotics are found this way. But the Norwegian fungus made a chemical with a quite unexpected ability. It countered rejection in a uniquely novel way. Called cyclosporin, here's how the new drug works. As the white blood cells start to attack, cyclosporin calls them off. It doesn't kill them, just stops their assault, so the kidney is saved. But so too are the white blood cells, which can still patrol the body and keep it free of infection. Cyclosporin is still experimental and has mostly been reserved for rare, tricky transplants like the heart or the liver. Bob will be among the first to get the drug in a kidney transplant from a relative.
I think I would have done no matter what the odds were, because I do feel much better about it knowing cyclosporin will increase the chances.
I just hope it works.
It's 3 days after Bob's birthday party.
Here it is. The end of the hour.
Early morning at Boston's Brigham and Women's Hospital.
I knew you'd do it.
This is the big ball game.
Colin's wife, Sally, is flown in from their home in Little Rock, Arkansas. The last few hours have been tense. Bob's running a slight fever, and the operation was almost called off.
How you doing, Bob? You gonna wear your hat in there?
As they open the OR doors, they can have it.
What's more, there's growing concern that the location of Colin's kidney down in his pelvis could greatly complicate the operation.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's an external pelvis.
The x-rays show Colin's kidney isn't only in the wrong place, its plumbing is also peculiar. So the surgeons are expecting problems. But as they start removing the kidney, it turns out to be in far worse shape than they feared. Word reaches surgeon Dr. Nicholas Tilney waiting in the next operating room with Bob. He has to put the kidney in. Normally, he'd not see the kidney till it arrived. But the bad news sends him hurrying next door.
You want me to go on the other side? Yeah, okay.
The problem is the kidney has too many blood vessels. And what's more, they're all too short, including the ureter that connects it to the bladder. But the kidney is already half removed. It's time to improvise.
If I put the kidney in upside down, will I have enough ureter? Yeah. If you guys could probably give me a little button of that, I'll feel better. Couldn't feel worse.
Tilney finds himself facing a situation that's the transplant surgeon's nightmare.
I'd never seen one like this, in fact. And we really didn't know how long the vessels were going to be. And you obviously have to have a certain minimal length before, so you can put the thing in. And the specter of getting it out of a normal person and then not being able to put it in was a little bit nervous-making.
But now the kidney is no longer Colin's. It's in limbo, in transition between bodies. There's not much more than an hour before it starts to die for Tilney to try to patch up its abnormal vessels so it can be plumbed into its new owner. If he fails, Colin's sacrifice will have been for nothing, and Bob will be back to a life on dialysis. An hour passes. The delicate repair rivets everyone's attention, and with only minutes to spare.
Okay, let's put that in the cold stuff then, guys.
Yeah.
And then we'll go fix this. Now, we're going to see here again.
Wrap it in your phone.
So we're going to put it in upside down. We're going to have to put it in upside down.
How about the ureters? Is ureter going to be long enough?
I hope it is. If it isn't, we're in big trouble. Okay, that's right here.
Now it's time to see if the patched-together plumbing of Colin's kidney can be successfully linked into Bob's blood and urine system. After some initial problems, the connections are made. For the first time in years, Bob's blood is being cleansed by a working kidney. The irony is that in return, the blood begins at once its attempt to destroy the adopted organ. A week later, Bob is preparing his daily dose of cyclosporin to hold rejection at bay. The drug should increase his odds of keeping the kidney to over 90% while preserving his body's infection-fighting ability. Bob is one of only about 1,000 patients in the world who have yet received cyclosporin, and he, like the others, must go on taking his daily drink of the drug for the rest of his life if he is to keep his half-brother's gift.
Take it easy. Thank you for everything.
I'd say it was nothing. I'd be lying to you.
This spring, the government is expected to approve cyclosporin for all transplant operations. A new era of organ transplantation is beginning. When we return, teams of students challenge Dr. Jones' strange machine.
When it comes to home computers, the Atari home computer gets high grades.
It's very simple to use, and it's a lot of fun to play with and to program.
The Atari Pilot language is a wonderful language to work with.
I think the graphics are extraordinary. The Atari home computer is expandable.
It's a popular computer, so there's a lot written for it. Atari puts out a lot of good stuff.
Only one computer lets you enjoy this library of over 2,000 enlightening and entertaining programs. Atari home computers.
It teaches how to do everything.
A motorcycle built just for yourself. A powerful V-twin. Liquid cooling. Shaft drive. A teardrop tank. And a radical set of pipes. Now, all you need is a name. The Shadow from Honda.
Put your head on my shoulder. Hold me in your arms, baby.
These beautiful moments were made possible by Head & Shoulders, the shampoo for the two of you.
Put your head on my shoulder.
Burger King presents broiling versus frying.
I just can't figure it out. Everybody knows flame broiling beats frying nearly 3 to 1. It's all over town. And McDonald's is frying their hamburgers all over town. Well, I like them flame broiled. So what are you gonna do? I got it. Go to Burger King. Aren't you hungry for Burger King now?
Here's a nice little executive toy. Something to watch during a boring meeting. It just keeps on running, but there doesn't seem to be anything powering it. Of course, as every executive knows, you can't get something for nothing, and this is no exception. The wheel contains small permanent magnets. Now, as the wheel passes the middle, the circuit inside detects it and switches on the battery. That activates the electromagnet, which gives the wheel a little push, just enough to keep it running. Now, could you have figured that out? I mean, without opening it up? I know I couldn't, but that's exactly what Discover asked 2 teams of students to do. And they had to do it on a very special machine.
Welcome to Discover's Perpetual Motion Machine Contest. This machine and this contest is the brainchild of Dr. David Jones.
Contest chairman, Nobel Prize-winning scientist Dr. Glenn Seaborg.
The contestants today include 3 students from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and 3 students from the University of California at Berkeley.
The inventor, Dr. David Jones.
First of all, in case there should be any mistake, perpetual motion is impossible, and I am a self-confessed fraud and charlatan. This machine gets energy from somewhere, I'm not saying where, and turns it into rotation of the wheel somehow, I'm not saying how. It has fooled a number of people in the past, but I think this is the end of the road.
Now, the inventors of the past never would admit it was the end of the road for perpetual motion. The archives of science are full of their weird and impossible devices. David Jones is a different kind of inventor. He's a working scientist from Newcastle, England, with a well-developed sense of humor. The machines which he builds in his kitchen are not supposed to revolutionize the auto industry or solve the energy crisis. They're more like scientific conjuring tricks designed to fool an audience. When we first met him, one of his machines had just defeated an entire engineering convention. Nobody could figure it out. So we threw down the gauntlet. Build a machine to fool the best science students in the United States. As the machine took shape, we visited his Newcastle kitchen for a sneak preview. Dr. Jones was taking no chances. He refused to tell us the secret. That way we couldn't be tempted to help the students out. His basic strategy is to make it look obvious. There seem to be so many ways of moving the wheel. As the machine gathered speed, he pointed out the problems the contestants would be facing.
There are plenty of entirely reasonable methods one might imagine this machine works by. Are there photocells in those boxes? There might be. These little gadget is going up and down. Do they drive the wheel or are they driven by it? These little things that go round, the boxes, do they have anything in them? The pipes here. Do they convey a gas? Or are they, as quite a lot of the machine is, pure window dressing, there to delude the unwary?
But how unwary would the challengers be? Next stop, Berkeley, California.
I am now prepared to evade any questions that the teams may wish to put to me.
What's the longest time that the machine has actually been running or been continuously operating on public display?
I have had it running for 3 weeks.
Well, you said we couldn't touch the machine, but I wonder just how strict that is going to be.
You can get within 1,000th of an inch of it, but you mustn't touch it.
Could you tell me how much the machine cost?
A few £100 in materials, thousands in expenditure of agony.
The teams retired to separate rooms to plan their strategies and draw up lists of equipment to be used when they were allowed access to the machine, which remained well guarded by the inventor.
A piece of soft iron.
Cigarettes.
Compass.
And lighter.
A lab jack and
An infrared camera system.
A hair dryer or hair blower.
An oscilloscope.
Radio. Pepperoni pizza.
No takeout.
All right.
Berkeley had first access.
Nothing happening whatsoever.
They quickly ruled out the pipes and just as quickly discovered some magnetic fields, first with a simple compass and then with a sophisticated magnetometer. They covered the light-sensitive photocells and then timed the machine. There was no effect. The photocells were fake. Then, a breakthrough.
It's purely electrical, too.
The microphone acted like a radio antenna, picking up not sound, but radio waves. The MIT team found the same thing, this time using an ordinary transistor radio. The two gray boxes were obviously doing something, but it didn't stop a check for the conjurer's assistant, perhaps. Even though the teams operated independently, their test procedures were quite similar.
I don't think there's anything coming out of there. Okay, forget that.
Although MIT spent a lot of time investigating the plate mechanism, something Berkeley had dismissed by doing a few calculations. Access time was an hour per team. Then they had to present their results.
I'd like to call first on the Berkeley team.
Thank you, Dr. Seaborg. Dr. Jones, it's our conviction that your marvelous machine here is actually a fairly simple classic electric motor. It has pulsed electromagnets in the two boxes on the vertical columns.
Berkeley claims the machine works like the executive toy, which gets a little push from the electromagnet inside. In this case, they say, the electromagnet is hidden in the box on the left with the fake photocells. MIT has the same idea.
Electromagnets in this box and in that box. This rod, we believe, is a controller, not through the plate, but somehow through these, the main structure of the mechanism, perhaps through wires into this box, which contains...
But unlike Berkeley, they think the rods and plates are involved as well, as some kind of control mechanism.
My decision is that the Berkeley team have won this contest. They have located the mechanism entirely in those two boxes, whereas the MIT team implicated that box as well and some of the linkages. And I think I can show you how the thing works with the aid of a...
Now watch closely. Dr. Jones takes the boxes containing the electromagnets off the machine to show that they do indeed work like that executive toy. But...
some of you may have noticed that the wheel has not stopped. Besides this, there is a second mechanism in the wheel, which nobody came ever close to guessing. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a little bit of international fraud which is going to triumph.
Of course, we should have known that even a scientific conjurer always keeps something up his sleeve. So the trophies went to the team that was at least half right. We try to make the perfect forgery. Stay tuned.
Atari introduces the Woman of the Year, Ms. Pac-Man. With a style of entertainment that Pac-Man never knew, an endless supply of floating goodies, oranges, pretzels, 4 different screens, each with different exits and entrances, and the green screen so difficult to reach, you may never see it again.
Honey, don't you know I'm more than Pac-Man with a bow?
Reach for Ms. Pac-Man.
Reach for Atari.
Here's something that you can only get from Atari. It's not a new video game or a home computer program. It's the Atari Service Program. Only Atari backs up its video games and home computers with a nationwide network of over 1,500 Atari service centers. Look in the yellow pages or call the Atari helpline. We'll give you service information and answer any kind of question about using your Atari home computer.
Atari Service.
We answer your call for help.
The originators of Hooked on Classics introduce 2 great new albums. First, Hooked on Rock Classics takes you on a symphonic journey through today's rock. Hooked on Rock Classics. Next, America's Love Affair continues. Hooked on Swing 2. Larry Elgart will have you roaring in the 20s, swinging with Bing and Hooked on Dixie. Catch the fever with Hooked on Swing 2 and Hooked on Rock Classics. 2 exciting new albums from RCA.
Available at these and other fine stores.
This is the taste. This is the test. Pepsi versus Coke, the Pepsi Challenge. And all across America, more people pick Pepsi. Time after time after time.
Oh, what a time. It's gonna be Pepsi now. The winning taste is Pepsi. It's gonna be Pepsi now. Taste what Pepsi's giving. It's gonna be Pepsi now.
This is a 2,500-year-old bronze, or at least that's how old it's supposed to be. There's not much history behind it. There's no excavation record. It came onto the art market about 20 years ago. It could be a forgery, or it could be genuine. Scientific testing is the only way to tell. Now, museum laboratories test objects routinely nowadays, and they catch a lot of forgeries. Still, the art world is full of rumors about forgeries so carefully made that even science can't detect them. Would that really be possible? Well, in a story that you can also read about in the pages of Discover magazine, we decided to find out. We set out to make the perfect forgery.
A 3,000-year-old Chinese bronze worth over $100,000. Can we copy it and not get caught by scientific testing? A team of experts agreed to try, hoping in the process to make forgeries harder to get away with. Catching forgeries is a part of Arthur Beale's job.
What better way to understand a forgery than to become a forger oneself?
We're depending on Paul Cavanaugh to cast the basic bronze.
I think we have a real good chance of carrying out the forgery and convincing people that it's real.
Looking real means looking old. Bill Rostocker.
Give me a correctly formulated bronze, and I think I can give you an appearance that makes it look like it was in the ground for 3,000 years.
The goal? Beat Tom Chase's laboratory at the Smithsonian Institution.
There's no way a forgery is going to match a genuine Chinese bronze in every respect, all the way down the line. Somebody's going to miss something, and I hope we'll be able to pick it up.
Arthur Beale at Harvard University's Fogg Museum agreed to lend us the real bronze to copy. But conditions are strict. Not only the forgery, but all rejects, molds, and materials have to be surrendered to the museum when it's all over. It's taken us 6 months of negotiations to put together this project, and now we can take the first step. A silicon rubber mold of the original. Next, Paul Cavanaugh takes over. He is one of the finest bronze casters in the nation and the owner of the Paul King Foundry in Rhode Island.
See a lot fewer bubbles in this.
Of course, Cavanaugh can't pour molten bronze directly into the rubber mold, so his first step is to make a wax cast. And here it is, a wax version of the original bronze. Now comes the first big challenge. The wax is an imperfect copy of the original. It's picked up defects like air bubbles from the rubber mold, so there's a busy weekend of retouching to do, and Cavanaugh even had to make special tools to do it.
Any trace of tool work has to be not that of the 20th century, but of the time at which the piece was made.
The finished wax will be encased in plaster, then left overnight in a furnace. As the wax melts out, it leaves a hollow mold inside, ready to receive the molten bronze. But now, a bronze formula has to be chosen.
Fine, I'm just about ready to pour the bronze, and I wanted to check with you on the final alloy. I have the Smithsonian book in front of me, and their bronze is...
We find the basic ancient bronze formula in a book, but to help make the bronze age quickly, special additives are requested by Rostocker.
About 0.5% iron, about 0.2% antimony, about 0.2% silver. Now that should pass the test.
The 6-part bronze recipe is mixed together. Our 3,000-year-old bronze is about to be created. Once again, the decoration has to be carefully retouched, a standard procedure even for the ancient Chinese. But there's still a special detail to fake. The Chinese would have used a clay mold in making their bronze, not plaster, and they never scraped that clay out of the handle, so we've got to add clay to ours. At last, we've got a beautiful bronze, but it looks like what it is, 1 week old.
What it needs is a patina, the green-blue finish that builds up over the years. Somehow, we've got to find a shortcut.
It's going to be really difficult to fake the patina on our forged bronze. It took 3,000 years for this patina to grow on here. And there are a number of tests we can use to authenticate it.
Arthur Beale is examining a genuine bronze patina. A sample of bronze and patina together will reveal a unique pattern that only comes from years of natural aging. The white line shows the original bronze surface. The colored areas show the patina. Now, over the centuries, authentic patina grows not only above the surface, but below it, too, deep down into the metal.
Isn't that a gorgeous-looking duck?
At the University of Illinois in Chicago, Bill Rostocker is attempting the greatest forgery shortcut ever, a deep patina. By bathing the bronze in acid, he hopes to cut deep paths way down into the metal, which can later be filled in with patina. The patina is then actually sprayed on. If it penetrates the metal and sits on the surface, it should fool the most rigorous scientific test.
The dedicated forger is going to be using scientific techniques to end run around the existing methods of evaluation. If we don't anticipate how to look for those new techniques, then he'll succeed.
So far, our experts have helped us get a bronze with good design, the right metal composition, and a patina that should look okay under the microscope.
But there's one other test that the Smithsonian will apply to our forgery, and that's the clay material that's caught inside the handle here. It can be dated.
It's these crystals in the clay that are used for dating. Over time, they store up the weak, natural radiation that other clay particles are constantly giving off. If the clay and its crystals are heated, though, during bronze casting, for instance, all the stored radiation is released as a burst of light. When the clay is cool, the empty crystals begin storing radiation all over again. Now, for a scientist to figure out when the bronze was cast, he just has to heat up the clay and measure the amount of light released. So, we need to put 3,000 years of radiation into the clay of our handle overnight. We're at Rush St. Luke's Medical Center in Chicago for a late-night visit to the radiation therapy ward. They don't usually try to make their patients older here, but tonight they're going to bombard the clay in the handle with exactly the right radiation dose to pass a clay dating test. At last, our bronze is in the hands of Tom Chase, laboratory director of the Smithsonian's Freer Gallery, a museum known throughout the world for its Chinese bronzes. We couldn't have picked a more difficult lab to challenge. This is the first time Chase has ever seen our bronze. He knows it's a forgery. He's been in on the plan all along. But will his machines be able to tell? Here, the bronze will be subjected to every conceivable scientific test, which means taking a lot of samples of the patina, of the clay, of the metal. 2 weeks later, Chase brings us the results of his extensive testing. The team is waiting anxiously to find out if they succeeded in making the perfect forgery. Did our metal formula match that of the ancient bronzes?
For the metal composition, this comes close to being perfect.
Did we leave signs of modern casting techniques?
In terms of casting, you know, what we've seen with the X-rays, it comes close to being perfect.
You see, we went through it.
We failed with the patina, though. The acid didn't produce those deep paths. So even though we sprayed on the right stuff, it didn't penetrate into the metal. But our idea of putting clay into the handle and aging it with radiation worked.
We took a sample and sent it off for the normal dating, and it came back as being between 2,800 and 3,500 years old.
The team was surprised it beat so many scientific tests, though relieved that the patina test caught the fraud. Science will obviously have to work hard to guard against perfect forgeries.
I still don't think it's possible to make a perfect forgery, but it's possible to approach it so closely that you will really fool people. And in some respects, this has approached it very closely.
Doctors prepare to reshape an infant's head after this.
When it comes to home computers, the Atari home computer gets high grades.
I use an Atari at home, and I use it for word processing and to teach myself other programming languages.
Well, the graphics are probably some of the best you can find.
The Atari 800 computer not only allows you to play games, it also allows you to learn math and history.
Only one computer lets you enjoy this library of over 2,000 enlightening and entertaining programs. Atari home computers.
The more you learn, the more you can program, and there's just no end to it.
Practice or work on the lawn. They both need doing. At least Vigoro makes having a beautiful lawn as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Or for Bermuda grasses, easy as 22, 3, 5. A special combination of nitrogen to potash for your grass, plus phosphorus for the roots, because thick, vigorous roots mean lush green Bermuda grass.
For the easy way to a beautiful lawn, Vigoro has your number. Now back to these numbers.
Available at participating Long's Drugs and Thrifty Drug and Discount.
This is soft soap. This is not. This is soft soap. This is not. 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 This is soft soap. These are not. No irritating alkali. Why do you think they call it soft soap? Soft soap and it's shower-made. Test it yourself.
I'm standing here at the site of a future Mad Jack's audio-video supermarket. The buyers have sent in tons of merchandise for the new store, but as you can see, it hasn't opened yet. Save on this GE Color television, only $199. Ampex T120 videotape, $677. Or a Panasonic portable video recorder with full-function remote control and color camera, only $887. Thanks to you, we're growing, so stop on out to the pre-grand opening inventory reduction at all 5 Mad Jacks.
Stonewashed down. New old favorites from Jordache.
The human head. What a wonderfully complicated thing it is. All those curves and contours are determined by the bone underneath. So sculptors study not only the faces and the personalities of their subjects, they also study anatomical models of the skull. Plastic surgeons who work on the human head have a task that's very much like the sculptors, and they have the same need, to study the underlying bone. But doing that effectively with a living patient has been all but impossible until quite recently. This is Lois. She's a bright, happy little girl, but now at 3 months, the problem with the bones of her skull is becoming more obvious. About 1 in 1,000 babies is born with a defect that leads to this uneven head growth, where the left forehead bulges forward and the right side is held back. Soon, surgeons will need the care of the instrument repairer, like Lois's father, and the skill of the sculptor as they work to correct the problem.
As I understand it, 2 of the bony plates of her skull, which should be only loosely connected at her age, are actually fused together along this line. And that doesn't allow her forehead to grow forward as she grows older. And the result is that this side of her forehead is quite flat, and she needs more brow or orbit for the eye.
Lois is at Barnes Hospital in St. Louis. It may look a little frightening, but it's just an X-ray, the first step in an entirely new method of imaging the skull. Surprisingly, Lois is just the right age for the operation to come, medically and psychologically.
She will never have had to deal with the time when her head was deformed and she had to defend herself to her peers and schoolmates. She will never remember any pain that might be involved.
Lois is having a special kind of X-ray which pictures a series of cross-sections of the head, about 50 images in all. In this form, they're hard to interpret. But Lois's doctors got some help from an unlikely place, the nearby McDonnell Douglas factory. Visiting aircraft designer Jim Warren at work are Dr. Jeffrey Marsh on the right and Dr. Mike Vanier. Every day here, engineers sit at computer terminals to design complex aircraft parts. On the factory floor, computers run machines which transform the designed data directly into hardware. The result is an object with twists and turns every bit as complicated as a human skull. Lois's doctors realized they could do the same thing with their X-ray pictures. Mike Vanier first programmed the hospital computers to print out the skull outlines. With a do-it-yourself jigsaw substituting for factory machine tools, they cut all 50 outlines out of plastic sheeting. Then they just had to pile them up. The result? A life-size, three-dimensional model of the infant skull. Dr. Marsh.
The model allows me to actually see the patient's skull. There are two things that you can see. The first is the difference between the two eye sockets. The normal eye socket is relatively horizontal and round. The abnormal eye socket is much more vertical and rather oval. Secondly, we can see that the right forehead is very flat. The left forehead is bulged forward because of the direction of growth of the brain.
A plaster cast of the model allows for the first time precise advanced planning. Dr. Marsh will cut free this section of bone, then he'll restore the correct shape by repositioning the section forward and down. Lois's surgeons are well prepared. Her parents just have to wait.
I guess it wouldn't be honest to say I have no fears.
It was pretty obvious to us. You know, we were convinced that was the thing to do.
I have a tremendous amount of confidence in the doctors who are going to work with her. And I think just as it's their job to have the skills, I think it's our job to have the faith and the confidence in them.
And that confidence was well placed. This is Lois 3 weeks after surgery. The scar will soon be covered by new hair. The shape of her forehead is now virtually perfect.
I think I had grown to love this little kid with the misshapen head, you know, and it was like seeing a stranger almost. But it was very exciting because she was very beautiful.
Coming up next, find out what these monkeys are really saying.
This is an arcade game. This is the new Atari Super System. Arcade? Atari Super System. You may like the Super System better. It has some of the best arcade and sports games. It even does something no arcade game can.
Telephone! It's Judy!
It lets you freeze the action.
Hello, Judy.
The new 5200 Super System.
If your dealer's sold out, keep trying. We're making them as fast as we can.
When it comes to home computers, the Atari home computer gets high grades.
Atari can be both business, it can be a family computer, it can do the games. I've done a little bit of the word processing. The Atari Pilot language is a wonderful language to work with.
It teaches me, it helps me to learn more.
This Atari home computer system has great graphics, it has great programs.
Only one computer lets you enjoy this library of over 2,000 enlightening and entertaining programs. Atari home computers.
It has great everything.
When I play basketball, I know my shoes. But now I'm into tennis, and Foot Locker has all the top-named sports shoes, all sizes, too. When I asked my Foot Locker salesman, I found out he knows tennis shoes like I know basketball shoes, because he's a pro, too.
They feel good, right?
Oh, they're great. I'll take them.
Foot Locker sales pros. Experts even the experts look up to.
Go get him, Will.
Thank you, Ted.
Foot Locker. Experts even the experts look up to. Foot Locker.
When kids get into trouble, they yell for mom. So do young rhesus monkeys. Now, the difference is these monkey screams for help don't count as language, or so the experts say. But here on this Caribbean island populated exclusively by rhesus monkeys, some remarkable new research suggests these monkey screams are more like language than anyone had previously thought. The monkeys aren't just yelling help. Their screams tell mom about the kind of trouble they're in. It's more like, hey, Uncle Bert's after me, and this time he's really mad. Now, how do we know what they're saying? Well, the answer, or part of it, is in this box. Punta Santiago, Puerto Rico. The boat is leaving for the island of Cayo Santiago, a mile or so offshore. Taking the box to the island are Sally and Harold Gazoulis. They're among the few people allowed on the island whose only permanent residents are rhesus monkeys.
Inna me yard, you know fi go on like your heart, eh? Inna me yard, you like song and start, right? Inna me yard, you have to pray to the Lord, eh? Inna me yard, that's why you spar with me.
There are over 1,000 monkeys here, descendants of animals brought to the island in the 1930s from India.
Spar with me, spar with me. Chalada man, shoulda always feel free to
They live freely on the island and have been the subjects in many studies of monkey society.
Thanks for the welcome.
This is the first time Harold and Sally have been to the island in a year.
He's still with the group?
He hasn't changed a bit.
No.
Is it 719?
Yeah.
They're anxious to see how the monkeys in their study have been doing in their absence. All the monkeys are identified with tattoos, but the Gazoulises can recognize at a glance most of the 100 or so monkeys in the group they're studying.
That's A98 that just moved over. It is lip smacking, making friendly signals. The one doing the grooming here, far left, is A87.
And one of the first things that people ask us is, how do you recognize them?
Because they all look alike to people when they first come out.
But actually, each monkey has an individual face and body posture that we can recognize, just as you would recognize different people.
The monkeys' one luxury on the island is a daily meal of monkey chow. Otherwise, they live in a natural state. Mealtimes bring out one aspect of their natural behavior, their scrappiness. Rhesus monkeys are constantly getting into fights. These tussles help maintain the strict social hierarchy of the group. There's a lot of screaming and yelling during these fights. Now, the screams are not just cries of fear or rage, but have a specific purpose. They're screams for help.
What's very interesting about these screams is that they seem to function to bring in support, aid from other monkeys in the group.
Here's an example filmed in slow motion. The infant in the middle gets attacked by two ants of its playmates. It screams for help, and immediately its mother rushes to the rescue. But she's lower ranking than the ants and is chased away. The infant continues to scream. Eventually, it attracts the attention of a high-ranking male relative. His approach quickly breaks up the fight, and the infant escapes. 2 years ago, Harold and Sally spent months on the island getting to know their monkeys and recording their screams. Back at their laboratory at Rockefeller University's Field Center, the screams were analyzed. Now, conventional wisdom in the monkey communication business says that any differences between the screams reflect only differences in emotion, like the difference between help and help. But when the sounds of the screams were displayed, they fell into very particular classes. Here's what they came to call an arched scream. The screams can be displayed more quickly electronically. Here are some of the different classes played in slow motion, beginning again with the arched scream. A pulsed scream. A noisy scream. An undulated scream. And a tonal scream. And it's here that the box enters into the story. It seemed to Sally and Harold that when a monkey was in one kind of trouble, it would give one type of scream. In different trouble, a different scream. That the monkeys were describing their troubles in their calls for help. So, armed with an 8mm film camera and the box, they went back to the island. The box contains an amplifier and loudspeaker and a library of audio cassettes. The cassettes contain the screams of particular infant monkeys. When they spot a mother sitting quietly, they select the scream from one of her own infants to play back to her. The idea is to film her reaction. But the infant whose scream they were to play suddenly came on the scene.
It would be just like hearing the voice of someone coming from another room when you could see the person sitting in the room with you. It would be confusing and it wouldn't seem natural.
So the playback is aborted and the search for a new subject begins again. The Gazoulis' days on the Monkey Island were typically spent in long hours of stalking and quietly waiting.
Don't get up. Oh, blast. It's a lot of frustrating time spent standing around waiting for just the right situation to develop, and then we quickly try to do a playback. Go. Playback to 660. 660 is sitting on the hill. She has her back to the camera. She's facing uphill and grooming a male. Speaker is...
A few times a day, everything is perfect for the playback. The infant whose scream is to be played safely out of sight.
660 continues to groom. Call. 660 glances briefly once in the direction of the speaker.
Later, they reviewed the films with the aid of animal communication expert Peter Marler.
The noisy scream of her daughter, 965.
In this case, a noisy scream causes the mother to look up sharply and to keep checking until she's sure it's not really her youngster in trouble. Noisy screams always provoke this anxious behavior and are only given by infants when things are really bad, when they're being physically mauled by a socially more powerful, unrelated animal.
278. She's on the left, and she's grooming her adult daughter, 606.
Here's a different cry, an arched scream. This time, the mother hardly reacts at all, and the arched screams are given only when an infant is threatened but not physically attacked by a monkey the mother outranks.
Who's the female?
Each of the 5 different screams seems to describe a different situation, what's going on and who's involved.
Giving an
Undulated.
undulated scream.
And in each case, the mother responds as you'd expect, anxiously when things sound bad, with bored indifference if the situation doesn't seem to warrant her attention. In this way, the screams are like a simple vocal language. Of course, monkeys don't spend all their time fighting, at least not seriously. As for whether their screams for help when things do get out of hand really count as language, well, that's an argument that comes as naturally to scientists as tree climbing to monkeys. We hope you've enjoyed our exploration of the world of science, as covered each month in the pages of Discover, America's science magazine. Join us next time on Discover, the World of Science.
Hey, Joey, what's she really like?
She's the most exciting
woman